We'll start with your Andrew.
Good evening, everyone. Before I hand over to the chair of tonight's meeting, I remind everyone here in the room we are now live streaming. We politely request that all participants wait until being invited to speak by the chair. If you speak, please raise your hand. Once invited to speak, please preface your contribution by stating your name. This will help the mic lock in on the timely speaker and thereby maximise the sound quality for those watching at home. If you are watching at home and wish to participate in tonight's meeting, please turn your video on. If you're just observing, please turn your video off. Unless actively speaking, all those watching the meeting via Zoom should have their mics muted. I will now hand over to tonight's chair, Councillor Price.
Thank you very much. So item 1 on the agenda is apology. Have we had any apologies tonight?
Councillor Alford and Councillor Griffin.
Very much. Item 2, declaration of interest. Does anyone have any declaration of interest to declare? Brilliant, thank you very much. Item 3, public participation. Do we have any members who are present here today or online who would like to talk? Perfect. Come forward first, our Wiltshire councillor here. State your name, please, for the camera's sake.
Thank you, Chair. Mike Sankey, unitary member for Melksham East. 2 reasons for me being here tonight. Firstly, I'd like to take the opportunity to give an update as a unitary member, which I can do even now or when that comes up on the agenda, whichever I think is best.
We do like the agenda item and then that.
Yeah, okay. The other thing is to talk about the Melksham East Community Hall. And I'll try and do it within the 3 minutes, but I thought it'd be useful to give a sort of potted history of where we've come from with regards to that. So the Melksham East Community Hall is the hall required as part of the planning consent for the Hunters Wood and Acorns developments. And I'd note that the community facilities for the Crayborn Road and Skylock Road area of the development were in fact incorporated into the Forest and Sandwich School. Now that's another issue in its own right, which I'm going to park right here and now because that would take us another half hour to go through. So at the time of the application, the site fell within Melksham About Parish Council boundary, and the proposed building was too small, but there was an option for the Parish Council to take the money and commission their own building. And the reason they had to do that was because the developers weren't prepared to construct anything other than the building that was originally planned. After the boundary review was implemented in 2021, the Parish Council transferred the SIL funding from the developer for the community centre to Melksham Town Council. That was a sum of £350,000, and there's also another sum which I'm not sure the exact figure, which is ring-fenced from Section 106 contributions. Parish Council also provided plans for the new Berryfields Hall for Melksham Town Council to use to save money on architects' fees, because it was felt that that was the appropriate size building. Melksham Town Council took the view that the Spa Road Snowbury Lane site was too small, and having received a report on the 20th of June 2022 from the Deputy Town Clerk, a motion was passed instructing officers to pursue an alternative site at the Verbena Court, which, as we all know, is by the Water Meadow. That site now has an application approved for a 70-bed care home, so it's no longer available. On the 27th of February 2023, there was an agenda item for this council to approve costs and authorise your architect to proceed with a planning application. This item was deferred to come back to a future meeting of the Town Council. On the 27th of November 2023, members were advised that the clerk had instructed architects to submit a planning application for a community centre at the Spa Road, Snowbury Lane site, and members of this council asked to receive a written update when the application has been submitted. And I don't believe that's yet taken place. I addressed the first meeting of this council on the 17th of May 2021 to ask that you prioritise the delivery of the community hall, and now ask that you take this forward as a matter of urgency, because there is a risk that the SIL funding might be claimed back from you because it hasn't being used for the intended purpose. So I'll be listening to your deliberations with interest tonight and really hope that you can take this forward and get that community hall delivered as soon as possible. Thank you.
Very much. So, would you come forward, please, and state your name for the camera sake?
My name's Susan Mortimer, a resident of Melksham. And there's just something I want to bring to your attention about new codes alterations. You're saying money is coming out of the major project reserve. Council should be mindful that the JPAG states that earmarked reserves must be held for genuine and identifiable purposes and projects. In recent years, Melksham has in its earmarked reserves had a major project reserves, which in its own name, they're not identifiable projects and purposes. The interim audit report of the 31st of March 2024 states that a more detailed breakdown of the earmarked reserve split for major projects needed to show the specific projects that funds have been allocated to. This would be beneficial and more transparent to demonstrate council's plans in the future. So I just think it's something, you know, the council ought to bear in mind, really, that it's not really the done thing to have a major project reserves. They need to be specific items. Going forward, I just flag that, really. And the other thing for the dates of the finance meetings that you've got, it really would be helpful to have the court tied in with the quarterly reports, because like the one in January the 6th, you're not going to have December reports by then. And then March the 3rd, you're not going to have the March reports by then. So it just means there's a delay in getting the reports with the dates you've chosen. Because March the 3rd, you'll be looking at December accounts, which is, you know, quarterly accounts, issue them quarterly. So that's just the two items I thought I'd flag up.
Yeah, thank you very much. One second, everyone. Right, thank you very much. Question 4 then, questions from councillors. Have you had any questions? No, fantastic, thank you very much. Item 5, to confirm as a correct record the minutes of the last full council meeting on the 22nd of July. Are there any questions, comments on this? In that case, another proposed to carry them. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hubbard, all in favour? Unanimous, fantastic, thank you very much. Perfect. So item 6, town mayor's announcements. I don't we have any announcements except for congratulations to Craig and Cafe in the Parks. I believe they had quite a successful event. Although it wasn't anything to do with us as council, I think it's important just to congratulate Craig, certainly on behalf of the mayor and I hope on behalf of the council on his part in delivering fantastic community events. Item 7, reports from unitary councillors. We do have 2 here. Firstly, do you have anything to share at all, John?
I don't think so. Probably the one thing Mandarins at County Hall would be over the moon if I was to share with you all was that We did have a resulting underspend at Wiltshire Council last year. And I think it's about 4.5 million is going into the highways budget to fix potholes. Anyone would think there's an election coming up. But going into fix potholes and road repairs. There's lots of that going on. Other than that, the only other thing I think I'll leave for Mike to update on, which is because it's now in his division, not mine, the road. So I don't think there's anything else going on really worth sharing with you at this stage.
Yeah, if you want to come forward now, Mike, the only reason I want to wait till now is so the minutes are all together and the unitary reports.
Right. Okay, two things to share with you. The one thing that was announced today is that Wiltshire Council have agreed to increase the fixed penalty notices for graffiti to the maximum amount allowed, which is £500. So we have had a spate of graffiti in the town recently. Whether or not that increase in the fines will add as a deterrent, time will tell. But I thought that was worth sharing. Right, the other one, you're probably all aware of the Melksham East Relief Road, aka Eastern Way or Rocket Road. Obviously the roundabout is now open, but the road isn't. What I'd like to do, I think the easiest thing, because in some ways I'm here doing this on behalf of Nick Holder, is read out the media release that we had, so I don't get it wrong, basically. Okay. So the key messages are that we, as Wiltshire Council, are working hard with the developer to complete the final works required to be in a position to open this key link to through traffic and alleviate the high volume of traffic currently using Snowbury Lane. We want to open the route as quickly as possible. However, there are outstanding actions that legally must be completed and signed off to ensure the safety of all users before we can progress. Following the completion of the Spa Road roundabout works, it will be inspected by our officers, along with the 2 signal-controlled Toucan pedestrian crossings and street lighting. A road safety audit will also be completed at the same time before the road is adopted by the council. Once the roundabout is formally adopted, additional factors must also be completed and in operation before the Melksham Eastern Relief Road can be opened to through traffic, including the signal-controlled Puffin pedestrian crossing link to Melksham Oak must be operational. A speed limit order must be made for the relief road and it must be enforceable with signage in place. And final surfacing works need to be completed along the link road. A traffic regulation order for a proposed 40-mile-an-hour speed limit has been advertised, and following a number of objections, these are being considered by officers before a final decision is made on whether the 40-mile-an-hour limits will be approved. The current location of the CJL compound on the completed carriageway is not delaying the work still to be completed, and we are not sure where this misinformation came from. Well, I am. I asked CJL and they told me. CJL will demobilise their compound when the roundabout is finished to allow the western end of the Melksham East Relief Road to be surfaced and the Toucan works on this arm to be finished. When the works were first started, the compound was located on the land to the north and northeast of the new roundabout, with a temporary construction access taken off Snowbury Lane. This access has since been closed and the smaller compound moved onto the completed carriageway where it is now. So that's the end of the formal media briefing. I can tell you that a few weeks ago, when it became apparent the roundabout was going to be completed, I started making inquiries to make sure it was going to be completed on time and the road opened. I was trying to get responses from officers, from Sam Howe, the Director of Highways. I wasn't getting anywhere. So in the end, I thought, well, I'll go to CJL. They're doing the works. They know what the score is. So I asked them, I said, oh, roundabout. Yeah, it's all on track. It's going to be opened. I said, new road. They said, oh, no, that won't be till Christmas. So it was a bit of a jaw-dropping moment. So why? I said, oh, well, Wiltshire Council have given us permission to use the road as a compound until we finish and move off-site. So, like I said, that's where that information came from. So I have been working with Nick Holder to try and understand all the outstanding issues, and I know Councillor Hubbard has as well, and I'm grateful for the effort Councillor Hubbard has put in as well as me. I have got a meeting with Sam Howe, the Director of Highways, tomorrow, with Nick Holder and officers to try and understand exactly what the delays are and to just see how quickly we can get this all completed and open, which is obviously what the residents quite rightly expect. So that's where we are. That is the briefing according to Wiltshire Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 8, CCLA signature mandate. So we need 3 signatories. As you can see, they're relatively out of date currently. So and I believe actually Councillor Westbrook, that's probably from about 4 or 5 years ago, your name on there.
I have to be honest, I can't even remember what CCLA is.
I'm just saying, what is it?
It's the bank account. Remember we did a motion, it's a savings cooperative that's owned by local authorities effectively. So I went on an LGA thing, he came back and said we should be doing this. And we all said yes, and we signed up for it, and then nothing ever happened.
I've never signed anything, so I'm forgiven for not knowing what it was all about.
That is fine. What we need here is, so one of them would be Tracy, which seems like a fair signatory, and we need 2 councillors to volunteer.
I'll do it. You might as well keep me on there. It saves changing it.
Thank you very much. In that case, then I propose Adrian, Pat, and
Second.
Fantastic. All in favour? Unanimous. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Item 9, streaming our meetings. So this is to discuss our live streaming on Facebook and potentially look at whether we want to do this on YouTube as well. So I'll open it for debate if anyone has any comments.
Does the background information be given by the clerk? Does the clerk have background information?
Do you have any background information or just?
Well, no, this was just a request from.
Yeah, so yeah.
Not on YouTube.
So essentially, so essentially, we obviously do live stream on Facebook. I think it's quite successful. We get a lot of people watching on Facebook. And to have a better calendar of actually what we've done, similar to how other councils do, I felt would be appropriate and a good idea to put our Facebook videos or our council videos on YouTube as well as a kind of calendar. Yes, John, and then.
I'll heartily support. If you're making a proposal, I'll second that, Chair. It's really helpful when you're trying to view historic videos. YouTube is a much better medium to get those on than. I think the technology can only stream to one at a time, can't it? Without clever things being done. So we can probably only live stream to one, but if they're uploaded the next day to YouTube, I think that would be really helpful.
But you can live stream through YouTube and share the link on Facebook. So that it live streams YouTube, but Facebook will show it.
So I suppose that, if I go to Simon first on that, and then that's fine. Yeah,
Thank you. I really love what Councillor Hubbard said, which I totally
Yeah.
agree. The only other thing as well is it's easier to embed into websites and e-newses and all sorts of other stuff like that.
Yes.
YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
So I agree.
great. Just on that note, Adrian, I know a discussion with Tracy. What the suggestion would be is we'll continue to just live stream on Facebook as we currently do, and then add it to YouTube the next day. So if we're all happy with that, we have a propose and a seconder. Oh,
Would it not?
Can I just suggest,
yes, please.
we say that for now.
Yeah.
I absolutely understand why, because we've had so many technical challenges going live, and the very last thing we want to do is introduce new challenges that means that actually on the night it doesn't work. But if this is technically possible, can I suggest that if this can be demonstrated and easily implemented, easily in capital letters, bold, italic, and everything else we can have, then we do go to both at the same time. But if there's any challenge to it, we stick with the current solution.
Fantastic. Right, so there we go. Go to the vote. All in favour? Unanimous, fantastic, thank you very much. Item 9, proposal for amendment of the calendar of meetings. We will have a look, and do we have any comments on where we are now? Simon and then Safi.
Just if we could visit that point that Sue Mortimer raised about changing the dates of finance meetings to match with quarterly reports, because we in full council depend upon the finance committee to do a lot of the scrutiny work ahead of our full council. If we could tweak those to get them to line up, it would mean that we bring these and sign them off in full council quicker.
Exactly what I was going to say. Okay.
Great, Gary.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement, and I thank Sue for doing this, or bringing it to our attention. Every year, we try and get our budget looked at, and we normally produce accounts that are at least one, if not 2 quarters out of date by the time we're trying to plan for next year. This will bring our accounts up to a quarterly basis, and we will be literally 4 to 5 weeks behind month end rather than 8, 9, 10 weeks behind month end. So it's a good move forward.
Is that your hand, John? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I'm agreeing, but I'm just looking at trying to be practical about how we could do this. What would normally be helpful, I suspect, would be to hold the finance meeting at the beginning of the month following the end of a quarter. So if you have the first quarter being April, May, June, then the helpful thing to do, I suspect, would be to hold the meeting at the beginning of August to give July to pull the accounts together. And then I'm looking at Tracy as I say this to see if she's agreeing or not. But because that gives 4 weeks to pull the accounts together, I think that we've got to be careful to give time for tail end issues to be on there if we want to have completed accounts for that quarter. Real opportunities for councils to pick up, for officers to pick up any issues that they identify when they do the first look at them. Saying that though, for next year or for this year, if we're looking at a change to this year's meetings, we would want to have that finance meeting in April, because I noticed at the moment, I think we're going to hold the finance meeting on election week in May, and I'm not really sure that would be a good time to do that for any one of a number of reasons. I would strongly urge that we try to avoid any meetings in May until such time as full council has met, because we won't have any committees. It might be worth pulling that May meeting forward, but then looking at when the other ones are in relation to. So you'd want one in May, well, that ship sailed, one in August, one in, what's it going to be? November, isn't it? Yes. And then one, I assume, in February.
Yeah.
Tracy.
Yeah, can I make a recommendation? We've got a finance meeting coming up, and it's just because my mind's ticking. We have got some statutory dates that we've got to meet as well. So can I bring those finance ones as a recommendation to the finance committee, and I can do a diary of all the clear dates we've got ahead.
Yeah. In which case, Chair, can I suggest that if we accept this amended programme, can we delegate power to the finance committee to change its dates? Because otherwise they'll have to come back to full council, which is just painful.
Yeah. Let's go Adrian, Graham, and then Will.
Mine's only a little one in the fact that I looked online actually only yesterday, and our annual meeting online is down for the 12th of May. It's gone to the 17th of May now. So I just wondered whether or not.
19th.
Pardon? No, so that
19th.
19th, I apologise, it's 17th next week. But it's in the, if you look at our calendar, it's on the 12th. The only reason I know that is because I was looking when I come on holiday. So I was thinking, when is it? And it came up on the 12th of May. So
You've got several others.
I'm just asking, but making certain that gets sorted quite quickly, because people might want to know when the annual meeting is, because it's quite an important meeting.
If we go to Graham and then John, and then we'll kind of wrap up where we.
Because I was just going to make a point here on finance being every 2 months and quarterly being every 3 months. So you'll never get them synchronised on that basis. I would agree with the proposal to let the finance committee decide to shift the dates gently itself, with a view to saying, let's make sure that it's key to those vital end of year and legal things.
Sorry, Chair, I missed the annual meeting thing. Adrian, thanks for prompting my head on that, because there were 2 things on that I noticed. First of all, the meeting on the 19th that's the annual town meeting, I assume, and then the 27th is annual council. Or when's the annual town meeting on?
27th is quite.
Oh, sorry, 17th of
No,
March.
it's not.
My apologies.
It isn't. That's the old one. And for some reason, I have switched the town meeting and the annual meeting around, and for some reason, it's not come up.
Okay.
I don't know why.
So can we clarify? The only reason I say this, because there is an election,
Yeah.
we want to hold the annual town meeting, I would suggest before.
March.
March or beginning of April. You don't want to do it ideally once you're getting into Purda, or you want to hold it after the first meeting of the new council. It could be either, but it mustn't really be in between, because it just becomes. And secondly, if the first meeting of the new council isn't until the 19th of May, then I would try and bring it in the week before, really, because you've got.
Week before, so you're around bank holiday.
No, the 12th isn't the, bank holiday is the 3rd.
The bank holiday is the
Fifth.
5th, the election is the 1st.
Yeah, so you've got the 5th one's bank holiday, but you've got the 12th.
Yeah,
I put the annual meeting in on the 12th, not the 19th.
because the council's in limbo until it's having its first meeting.
I did take all these things into consideration, and I don't know why this is not.
Well, that's right, I mean, it happens, but can we confirm the dates tonight and then the updated one can turn up with those?
Sorry about that. We were more concentrating on increase of committees rather than the actual timelines of an election year. That's what.
It's just some practicalities that we need to be aware of. It's only once every 4 years, isn't it? It's inevitable, it's gonna.
I'm sorry, I looked at it yesterday, then, do I apologise?
Yes, annual meeting full council on the 12th, that can stay, surely.
I think the annual town meeting, oh, yes. Yes, so obviously this is what was agreed back in May of this year. So yeah, so we've got, at the moment, we've got the annual. I did make some changes to that, but I can't remember exactly what, but we can leave that there, if you're happy with that, the annual town meeting staying in May.
You have to cancel out those 2. The first meeting has got to be the annual meeting after an election.
Oh, that's probably why I moved it.
Sorry, is the annual meeting of council, not the annual town meeting?
The annual meeting of your council, so your new council.
Yeah, that's the one that's the 12th of
It's first thing to May.
We call the annual town meeting our gathering of the great unwashed.
Yes, I'm around your.
Yeah, it's just our naming of them, that's the confusion there.
So leave the annual town meeting in March, yeah?
And the annual council meeting in May.
Just a note on the annual town meeting, and this is just me being really pedantic and I'm not fussy about it. In terms of going to Purda, technically that'll be on the 20th. If there's any press releases that we want to put out, just thinking in terms of that sort of thing. Just a note, not for us, anyone to do anything. I don't think it really matters, but just a note.
In Purda, business continues of a council.
It does, but it's only.
It's just not got to be political.
True.
But not, no, I know you have your political things at the bottom of some of your emails. You're not you have a council, you're not a political council as such. So you can still, you carry on business as normal.
I'll come on to this later because I spoke to our thing and it's actually to do with people who are standing for county, who when it becomes political. And if they're in town, they're covered by Purda. That's where it gets complicated.
Only on relevant issues, so if the town council, if
I'll
there's
talk
a.
about it later what this is on. No, I appreciate it on this, the bit I'm going to talk about in a minute is different.
But for the annual
That's fine.
town meeting, if a press release comes out from the council from the annual town meeting,
That's fine.
and the press release is talking about the council, you've not got.
It was a note rather than a need for discussion.
Thank you. So with the amendment, who wanted to put that in the amendment that the finance decide their own meetings going forward for this? Want to close it, John? Thank you, Safi. So all in favour? Unanimous, fantastic, thank you very much.
So sorry, can I just clarify then that the annual town meeting, March annual meeting, as it shows there, still on the 12th, not as on the.
It says 19th.
No, the 12th is on the website,
12th is on the website, I agree.
and that's the one we've agreed to.
Right, then just keeping that on the 12th.
Yes,
So those still staying as they are on the existing.
yes, need to be
Calendar
amended on the
that's
calendar.
agreed in the night. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 11, amendment to fixed assets, is to note the change to the fixed assets register. Do you want to just quickly?
Yes, so on the audit return, it was recorded as the fixed assets as it was last year. There were some amendments that needed to be made. We did know that there are amendments to be made, and there's been correspondence between our RFO and Mrs. Mortimer and other people. So we rang up internal audit and external audit and just had to make an amendment, which was circulated. So it's just to note that we've made an amendment to the fixed asset amount.
Any comments on that at all? Okay, perfect. Item 12. To appoint of a consultant, to approve the appointment of a consultant to work on the Wiltshire Towns Programme Activity Generation Grant Programme submission. John and then Adrian.
I think we're probably going to say the same thing for large extent. This is a grant opportunity that the council has for up to £75,000 over the next 3 years. We didn't draw down last year's money. Luckily, we can draw down double this year if we get it done in time. But we've got to get a viable grant opportunity application in by October. We've got a small working group which has been looking at options for this, and we're looking at trees in the marketplace, trees in the high street, various other things to make the town look pretty. We had the lady come over from Wiltshire Council, very productive meeting with Hugh, Richard, Adrian and myself. But what's clear is there's a job of work to be done in order to put together the grant application. And we've, as we all know, got limited officer capacity at the moment. And with there being 75 grand on the line here and a real opportunity to do some lovely stuff for the town centre, we just wanted to say that let's get somebody in to put that grant together so that it's not adding to the workload of our existing officers and at risk. Because if we do that, something else will have to not be done in that period. So it's can I also say that I wanted to and I know that we've got the item on delegated budget later on, but this is an absolute typical example of where I think that there should be no need for this to come to council. We have a staffing budget. This will still be well within that staffing budget. It's well within the permitted spend that the clerk has. And I think that this has just been able to conduct business as usual. I understand why it's come, and I'm not criticising why it's come, but I think as a council, particularly when we do that item later, we need to make it very, very clear that something like this, our clerk should just be able to go and get on with, because we've already lost the better part of a month waiting to be able to bring it to a committee, and that's why we never get anything done. So I move that we authorise the clerk to bring somebody in to do the work required in order to research, prepare and submit the grant application for the town fund. I forget what the fund's called now, but the Improving Town Centres funding.
Wiltshire Towns Programme,
There we are, that one.
Activity Generation Grant Programme.
1 second, I know we have Adrian and Gren come in, but Tracy just wants to make a comment.
I just want to clarify that I have spoken to Wiltshire and they said that's the cost of that consultant can legitimately come from that fund money as well.
Even better.
Right.
It is, I'd just like to second the proposal that we get a consultant in. It was clear that actually, when we had our meeting, you know, they are desperate to give us this money, in all honesty, and it's a lot of money, and it would be absolutely awful if we didn't have the officer capacity, which we won't have, to be able to get the bid in. I can't remember, I know it's October, I can't remember whether it's beginning or the end of
It
October.
would be nothing.
But whatever it is, it needs somebody who is just going to do that little bit of work, a big bit of work, in order to make certain that we actually we get the money from Wiltshire Council to enhance our town centre. So I'm happy to second. I think John proposed it, so I'm happy to second it.
Thank you very much. Graham.
Yes, that's why I'm coming in here. In principle, fine. I'm just looking here and saying, do we have any idea roughly what the cost of the consultant's going to be? I know we can take this out of the money, which Tracy's coming since I put my hand up, but you know, appointed consultant, there's no comment here that I see in what's come to me of how much it's going to cost or how long that consultant is for.
Yeah.
Very, very roughly, and let's delegate it if it's a sensible amount.
We don't have that information right now.
I think through you, Chair, if I might, to try and be helpful to Councillor Harris, when we were discussing it in the meeting, and Adrienne, please feel free to chip in and update if I get this wrong. But when we were talking about this, we were reckoning it was probably 2 to 3 weeks' work for somebody to be able to sit down, do the necessary research, pull it together into a half decent grant opportunity that can then go forward to Wiltshire Council.
Yeah,
So you can do the maths in terms of.
that's absolutely fine. It came through there with little statement of what the timing or the length of the timing on it was. Thank you.
Do we need to put in their delegated powers to the clerk and find the consultant?
Yeah.
In order to get this work done.
Is that a
Friendly amendment.
friendly amendment with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any more comments on this before we go to the vote? Fantastic. We have a first and a seconder. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 13, the mayor's reception. So a bit of background to where this comes from. So as it's fucking my year as mayor, and it's one of my duties as the mayor to say what we're going to do for the mayor's reception, in which we deliver awards to the community, and of course a bit of a ceremony. I'm looking at having more of a community mayor's reception, so to speak, having something more outdoor and also a free event for the people of Melksham, for the community, for our residents. We do have a very nice meal every year, but it just for me, for a little bit closed off as it's such a community day, that so little the community can actually get involved. So I'm looking at hopefully getting quite much more of a larger budget in the region of more £15,000 from the £2,000 we currently have planned to prepare to deliver a big event in the park, our own park, that our residents can come and enjoy, have some live music, have bands, have food there, have people come and enjoy that way. That's kind of where I am. That's what I'm open to have a conversation about that, where people think that may be and what we can do with that. John and Gary.
Thank you, Chair. I would do both. If we've long talked about having a more civic event that the general populace can come to, and I think that would be a very, very good idea. I do think there is a separate role for the mayor's reception. That's the one that we invite all the other mayors from the other communities to come to. You will have been receiving invitations to go to their events. It's the one where we do the civic awards. And it's not, yes, we can do the civic awards at a big community event, maybe we should do them at a big community event, but we also invite the civic award winners to come and sit down and have a meal later on in celebration of what they've done and all the rest of it, and say nice things about them. So I think there is a role for that. I have no objection to us putting money aside to do a wider community event. I think such a thing could be very, very good. But I personally don't think it should replace the mayor's reception. I think the civic reception is an important date in the calendar and an important event that takes place, where it's not just about Melksham, but it is about the wider community as well. And there are a number of people who will buy seats to come along, buy tickets to come along and attend that event because they recognise it for what it is. So, personally speaking, no opposition to a community event. What a brilliant idea. But I personally think it should be alongside the civic event, because I think that civic event actually does have a purpose in the civic calendar.
Thank you very much. Gary, then Graham, then Simon.
Thank you. I agree with what John said. I think the civic reception was also in March. If it's going to be with an event in March, you'd obviously need to change the date because you couldn't guarantee the weather, particularly if you're going to move it later on, or replace the civic with another event. And that's it really. I think with all the events that we're bringing on now, it's giving the town a better image and another good civic event between the council, the staff, and our community will go down really well.
Thank you very much. Graham.
I mean, I'm agreeing here with John and Gary, by all means another event, but it's the other mayors, the other folks who come into the town here to see this here. And some of those, I'm sorry, Tom, are not as young and agile as yourself and may find the park a bit difficult. We may end up with a wet day, we may end up with all those sorts of things. It is sensible to use the facilities of our Assembly Hall or similar for something like this, and by all means go on and do something in the park. I'm also wondering about the announcements and people coming up and how long that's going to take them and all the rest of it. So I look at the practicality on the park. It could come off wonderfully, or it could be peeing with rain, and what are you going to do?
As it is today. Thank you very much. Simon.
Thank you. I promised Councillor Hutton I haven't colluded. I do have a chord of agreement to an extent in that all in favour of having another town event and perhaps trying to do something near the start of the year. Might be a very good idea, and we proved in the coronation we're quite stoic with weather. But I think crucially, one of the points Councillor Hubbard raised is that the mayor's reception is a civic event. And as you'll know, travelling the towns now doing civic events, you do strike quite interesting relationships with the other mayors across Wiltshire. And these events can seem pretty intangible in terms of their benefits, but you can have quite interesting conversations, quite helpful conversations. They're a great way to exchange ideas and a way to showcase Melksham as part of your event. But of course, it is your event and you can hold what you like. And I did, Andrew, help me put a link into the meeting. I did watch the background as to why you want to change it. And one suggestion I thought of that we do alongside a much larger civic event in the park is you could, within the budget, and probably cheaper than doing a sit down meal in the formal budget, is have a more conventional mayor's reception with an open buffet and allow people to come through. So you will get a much higher turnout if there's a free buffet, and it won't be the whole town, so it wouldn't break the bank. You could just put a huge amount of food out and have sort of more akin to what we do on Remembrance Day, on a much larger scale, where you would then have the opportunity to still mix and flow with dignitaries from other towns and be able to get more people through. I wondered if that might.
Yeah. Thank you. Jenny, do you have that?
So I think if kind of taking what other people are saying, because I really like the idea of a civic event in town. Again, we would have to be careful about when it's on. I know people keep telling me that Purda's not a big deal, but treating really is, and you can't treat. And if anybody wanted to, like, I've been looking at the electoral commission, I've talked to people about it because I just don't want us to get caught out by it.
You couldn't do this event.
And this is what I was saying. So you can't do these sorts of events during Purda, which therefore means that you're looking at the beginning of March. That the reality is the weather's not good enough in the beginning of March to use the park. And I think that's where we can't have it in that time. But I like the idea that if they if they win an event, an award, they then get invited to the dinner is quite nice as well. It's difficult, right? Because I appreciate as a town council, Purda doesn't necessarily, isn't as prevalent to us, but it is prevalent to anyone who's standing for county. So anyone who stands for county, even at town level, and I talked to essentially our union about that, and they were like pretty clear. That our opposition, anyone who's standing, the opposition who currently is on council could take it to electoral commission if they wanted to. It's just to save us. I mean, I'm not sure they would, but.
The law's the same for town and county.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Representation of people, so.
Exactly.
I mean, it is quite clear that it says, you know, we won't be allowed to treat because entertainment comes into that.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back, and to be fair to them, to say, right, it's start March, not really going to be. I think the idea of doing an open kind of more buffet style, relaxed, more informal events with a formal element to it in the Assembly Hall at the beginning of March. Get your award winners in, get the civic part done, have a bit of a party as well, so a bit of a more relaxed rather than sit down. Much more sort of mingling type event, I think would be better suited to that time of year and combine those.
Charlie?
I like listening to all, I like a mix of everything, you know, that people have said. It should be more relaxed, it should be something that, you know, celebrated by more people. I do kind of err on the side of caution about 15,000 you're asking for. I do think that's a lot of money considering some of the other things that we've, you know, we're hoping to get in the pipeline. We have got the pipeline and looking at the finance sort of side of it. And I think you could probably do it for less than that, but still have a good shindig, so to speak. But it is the 15,000 that makes you can't go.
Thank you very much. I'll do my comment, then I'll come to you, John, because I haven't had a go yet. Right, that one. So firstly, yeah, I'm not going to be some kind of put my foot in the ground and say, no, this must be the med section. Clearly, there's an interest in having a community civic day in the park, and I'm ecstatic that is the case. So I'm very happy with that. I would just say, with the weather, I don't think it's a massive problem with weather all the time. You look at Carnival, it was slightly raining. I mean, the coronation was absolutely tipping it down all day, and it's raining now in the middle of August. But I accept all the points against that. I must be too modern to this world. Maybe in a couple of years' time, but no, that is fair enough. I'm more than happy to take that away myself. I'm more than happy to take away the med section, a different way of doing it. But my main take home here is I really hope we do get approval to do a big community event for the town. We used to have, for example, Party in the Park, which the community loved. That is no longer something we have. And I think things like that we really need to be bringing to the town as a council. Maybe we should be taking that on. John and then Jenny.
Yes.
So what I was going to suggest, Chair, because I think that until you've had a mayor's reception, you know, when I sound personal, I think Simon will probably back this up, how personal, and Adrian indeed, the event can be in terms of what it is and how it's done to how you want it to be. And I've been to all sorts of different mayor's receptions that we've had in Melksham. But they've all sort of revolved around that same principle of being the civic reception that we invite the mayors and the board and all the rest of it too. I'm just wondering if a way forward might be, because the other thing I am mindful of is that with the elections coming up and nobody knows what's going to happen after the elections or the rest of it, you may not get the opportunity to serve the traditional second year. And therefore going into that, there may be, you know, we can't assume that next summer however, we do have an event that is already being organised for this year, which is Proms in the Park. And I'm wondering if we might be able to tag on to that, something happening before it to merge into the Proms in the Park as a sort of get together. I don't know, everyone will tell me why we can't do this in a minute. But it seems that there's something we're already organising that's going to be inviting people to come into the park, and why that couldn't be merged in, so that there was something. And then for future years, we could look at something like that as being a civic event for the wider community. Because certainly when I was mayor, one of the things that I talked to officers about, but we just felt there wasn't capacity to do, was the community picnic day where we invited everyone to come in. We wanted community groups to be able to have stalls, aka the old party in the park. Before it got sort of commercialised, so to speak, which I don't mean derogatory, but I think people know what I mean. But we just didn't feel there was the capacity to be able to organise that, so it didn't happen. But I don't know, I just throw that as an opportunity, because otherwise you won't have that opportunity for something like that you're hoping for within your, or potentially within your time as mayor.
Okay, great. Jenny, Graham Sugar.
Sadly, the 14th, which is the day of Proms in the Park, has the Lions Community Day just before it, so it's the same day, so they run into each other. Otherwise, that would be a really great idea.
Talk to the Lions, both of them, but
all I was going to say is actually talking Proms in the Park. Obviously, it's not similar in terms of the way it's going to be, but in terms of a community event, I would say that I know we were in discussion, but it's kind of me that said the 15 grand, but I will say that came from a 2-day event. So I don't think we necessarily need that amount for a 1-day community event. I think if we reduced that amount of money, that would make it more palatable to some people, I think. Because I can see why £15,000 sounds like a lot of money. However, if you took it down to 8, which is what we had for Proms in the Park, and I don't believe we've got close to it yet, the £8,000. It could provide an amazing event. Just an option. It's yours to think through.
Adrian.
Can I just apologise about the 15,000 because Jenny just asked me in passing, how much does the festival cost? And I had no idea why she asked me. So I just told her how much the festival costs. That is a 2-day festival. It's much, much bigger. And that's why that 15,000. If you're talking about a one day community event, I think you can probably take it down to about 5 or 6, in all honesty. So that is my fault, but I didn't know why I was being asked, so.
Graham, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. I was just going to come back on John there and say it's great to run it in terms of with another event as well. But as Jenny said there, yep, sure, the Lions are there before, and that would require a lot of coordination or whatever. And it's actually on quite a short time scale.
Thank you.
You do wonder.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think there's been a fair bit of feedback and debate there. My thoughts personally on this would be, I wouldn't be overly, I mean, I'm happy to have, you know, whatever involvement other areas like to be like the Lions and Proms in the Park, if that's something that's needed. But I'm looking for, I think we should have more and more events for the town, more and more free events. So I'd want this to be an addition on top of what already we're going up and beyond to do this year or next year. The price, I would ask, and if we were looking at trying to find a price that we are more comfortable with, looking at the Christmas lights cost £10,000. And if, you know, knowing that, you know, in my time, the events work group, we had one of planning it, what can be quite costly sometimes is a stage and the actual acts to come in. And I would like it to be quite a music-y kind of festival, and they can be quite expensive, which is why I would err on maybe more of a £10,000 budget. But maybe also speak to Tracy and see if we can have any kind of grant funding for these kind of community events, any kind of potential sponsorship to kind of bring the amount on the preset down a little bit. But I do think a budget around £10,000, looking at what Christmas delivers in the park, could potentially be a sensible amount, because I wouldn't want it to say £6,000, then we've unintentionally blown the budget, because stages aren't cheap, lighting, extra lighting isn't always cheap, bands aren't always cheap. Exactly.
Just to clarify this, so are you trying to split the 15 grand total between the two events now then? So the civic event and then a separate community event.
So £2,000, I believe it's £2,000 the budget for the mayor reception currently.
There is sure.
Yeah. So keep that as it is, and then a further £10,000 separately for a big community civic event in the town next year. Nothing to do with the mayor, nothing to do with anyone's power, but from the council for the people. Yes, John.
well, yes is my instinctive response. I'm just thinking the practicalities of this. Because of course, we haven't got next year's budget in place yet. So we would be, and that's fine, because council can make a commitment, it wants to do that for next year's budget. I think one of the things that this does actually underline, an election year is a difficult year to have the conversation because nobody, of course, knows what would happen in May, next May. But one of the things that this does underline is that because as a council, we basically don't choose the mayor until the day, it is very, very difficult to plan mayor events for the year ahead. Because actually you can't start planning and you can't start talking to somebody about them until the day. So we elect a mayor in May. If the mayor's wanting to hold summer events, there is no planning time available for this. So although this isn't the agenda item and I don't want to turn it into one, this does make me think it might be worth us thinking about doing what many, many other councils do by default, which is actually saying that when we elect the mayor and the deputy mayor, it's on the understanding that the deputy mayor will become the following year's mayor, which on the whole is our practice, but it is not always what happens. And then that gives the opportunity for the deputy mayor to work with officers in the run-up to their season, so to speak, for things to be able to be better planned. Because as you're experiencing now, you're wanting to do something new and innovative as mayor. I experienced the same problem, and I suspect Simon will have had them in her time. Adrienne will have had. Poor Pat had to do it under COVID, so she couldn't do anything. But you've got the right idea, but by the time you bring that idea to fruition, it's the end of your term. So if we looked to accept the principle that the deputy was to become mayor, it would give the deputy the opportunity to be able to work with officers to plan the year ahead. That's obviously something that wouldn't be coming into effect until after next phase elections. It's not being talked about. And you could always have a reason why someone didn't follow through. But at least it would give that opportunity for planning ahead, which I think would be better for officers, better for the council, and give a much more pleasant experience to whoever is incumbent or going to be incumbent for the year, that when they get there, things can actually happen. Because we're talking about your event now, or what could be your event now, but it won't be until the summer. So by then, it may not be your event. So,
Gary.
John's comments I've brought on my thought is this is a community event they want, and with this council on the last round, 13 out of 15 councillors were outvoted. If you have a deputy mayor or a mayor, they could be quite easy to outvote election. But if us as a council made how I don't know, because I don't know all the ins and outs, but made a diary entry that we want this event annually, I don't think any new council will vote it out if it's for the community. So rather than put personnel there, make it a community event that is as you would like it now, that we could shape into the form that you want, but make it a diary entry rather than councillor or councillor led. It would just be the incumbent council or officers who basically run the event.
Thank you very much. In that case, can I put forward some kind of proposal that may or may not be swapped and changed, but if we do have an appetite for it, so I would like to propose that we look into, or we plan a summer civic event for the town next year, with Tracy helping to plan that, give the authority to ComDev to deal with as it seems the appropriate meeting to do, under a budget of £10,000.
Can I make a friendly suggestion that we say it's the events and communications person rather than Tracy?
Yeah,
They are.
That's fine. So that is my proposal. Do we have a seconder? Go, Gary, something a bit different. Any comments on that? Right, I should give the vote then. All in favour? Unanimous. Fantastic. Thank you very much. We're very excited.
Tom, can you?
Oh, yes, the budget. We did discuss where it's coming from, didn't we?
So it'll be next year.
Yeah, but we can put that commitment on the council. to deal with.
So when we do the CS budget, like the new budget.
Yeah. That's it.
When you say summer, what we, sorry, I'm.
Oh, I mean,
Spin it down a little bit.
that will be for the community development committee to make a decision on the planning. I don't think it probably worth us debating it right now. Be that be for the community development.
Who's gonna
committee.
have your mayor's?
Yeah, and that'd be a separate event still.
I was just thinking about, obviously,
No, that's
yeah,
right.
there's the plan, press
Yeah, it was slightly changed.
yeah, in our head, once we do know who's gonna be doing it.
Thank you very much, everyone. So item 14, the east of Melksham Community Centre. We were to get a verbal update, but unfortunately, due to reasons, we are unable to get that verbal update right now. I'm certainly Mike came in with quite a passionate speech on the concerns he has within the Melksham East Community Centre. Although there's not really anything to give anyone, because it is quite an important point, I will give a chance for if any council wants to say anything on this or have any recommendation going forward, knowing the history of it. Simon, Charlie and Jenny. John.
I know that it's very difficult for you to answer, so simple yes or no would suffice rather than answer. Do we know roughly when the plan application will be submitted? Do we have like an approximate time?
It's not even a project that I've picked up and I don't think one has been submitted yet was, but I can.
It should be.
It should be by our architect, but we just have never found out whether or not it was.
Can I come in on that? I think, I'm not absolutely certain it's one, I think after the resolution to submit the plan application, there were queries raised by the architect. We didn't have a clerk up by that time, and it wasn't anything that I was able to comment on. I think Hugh managed to answer some of the questions, but as far as I'm aware, and I think I did email the architect recently to ask him about this the other week. As far as I'm aware, there are just outstanding questions. He is, straining at the least to submit the plan application, but there are questions that he needed answered before that could be done. I don't actually know what the questions are.
So we don't know the ones we need to answer.
I think it would have been the clerk, but obviously at the time we didn't have one, we weren't sure whether Linda was coming back or not. But I think it was a case really for the clerk to contact.
Are we able to each humble and say, what are the questions to the architect?
So could we resolve them?
Right, so can we?
Sorry.
So given that we don't know the matters that have been raised, but they are questions that the clerk would need to respond to, could we resolve to ask Tracy to look at that correspondence, answer what you can.
Synchronised handwriting.
Emails at the same time.
I'm not expecting you to have resolved it by the next full council. Answer what you can and come back to us, just to say this state of play.
If I have a feeling for some reason that Charlie and Jenny may have some relevant information that may shed some light on something, so I will just go to Charlie and Jenny and then John and Tracy can give some advice on what next steps are.
So I'm pretty sure Jenny's probably pulled them all up as well. We've got emails still from when Linda was dealing with it, which I'm more than happy to send you, Tracy, so you're kind of up to date on where everything is. On the 21st of November, we had an email from Tracy saying that she had instructed that. Sorry?
Linda.
What did I say from?
Tracy.
Sorry, not from you, Tracy. I do apologise, from Linda. Sorry. Yeah, it's because I'm thinking of you did things. From Linda saying that they'd actually instructed for the planning commission to be put in to the Wiltshire Council. So as far as we were concerned, that had been submitted to Wiltshire Council, and we were just waiting for a date. I do, Mike, thanks for coming in to talk about this as well. Do you know if that, I'm pretty sure it is with Wiltshire Council, isn't it?
There isn't an application on the Wiltshire Council planning portal as it stands at the moment.
There isn't.
No.
Okay. In that case, what I'll do is I'll send you all the information that we've got, so we can go from there and have a look.
Okay,
I mean, I was going pretty much the same thing.
okay. John?
Okay, we've got to get on with this because this has been bouncing about for a long time. And I think the misdirection of Adama Court is now finally off the table and was never going to happen anyway, just I think cost for 12 months. Can I make, I don't know what proposals have or haven't gone forward on this so far, but can I add to whatever is going in, which hopefully will be, let's just get this sorted ASAP, that we authorise Tracy to bring in whatever professional support is required to project manage this job. Because this, just like we were talking about earlier on with the other stuff, is yet another significant thing that needs to be done on top of everything. Where we don't have a deputy in post, we don't have an events person in post, we just don't have the capacity. And I think just saying to Tracy, go off now and organise building this this community building with you on top of everything else would be thoroughly unreasonable. Now, it might be that Tracy needs to lead on that and somebody else do the other stuff that needs to be brought in. Frankly, I don't care, but we need short-term support to help the staff be able to deal with the workload. We have got to get on with this project because people will be taking back the money that we've got for it. So we really have got to get on with this as a priority. Whoever's moving a motion, whatever it is, can we add into that full delegation to the clerk to pull in whatever professional resources she requires in order to be able to progress this application urgently.
Thank you.
I'll have a second.
Okay, that's it. Let's go to Tracy, because I said I would go on to Tracy after that, and then we'll come to you, Gary. Do you have any comments on that? You said you want to suggest something, or you're happy with what?
I've got access to Linda's emails, and I have actually just gone back and seen correspondence from the architect asking for questions prior to submission, so I can pick that up tomorrow and start it again.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Gary?
Just leading on from that architect, the architects are the ones asking for the questions, which invariably either come from us or from the unitary councillors, Mike and the likes. But we need, time is of an essence. I wholeheartedly we put this to the clerk to move forward, but we actually need this brought back next month, because otherwise it could go on another 3 months. If it's not on the agenda, unless the clerk's going to update us outside of these meetings, we just need to move it on. So it needs to be on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you. We do remember the public who wants to come in. So before that, is there anyone who wants to come in at this time?
Yeah.
Okay, at this point then, I propose we suspend standing orders. We have a seconder, Jenny. Sue Mortimer, you had your hand up. Do you want to come in and comment on that?
Concerned about the time taken, because I know they can have the sale money back, but John's made that point, but I don't know if anybody knows how long it is before they can take the money back, because it's been going on quite a while.
I think it's 6 years, so we've still got time for.
And logically, I would assume, sorry, that.
If I could just, thank you very much for that, Sue. Reinstate standing orders, pick a seconder, unanimous, I'm sure.
Can I just pick up the thing on seal money? I assume,
Can, please.
obviously you can prove 7 years later, you're still, hopefully it's not that long, I'd like to point out. If you can prove, they probably wouldn't take it away if you were in the midst of building it. That's what I would assume. Just would double check that hasn't happened.
Okay, great.
There's games that could be played when you get closer to it.
Yeah,
But let's try not to get closer
No.
to it.
let's get this done. Can we
So-
just get what Simon's beginning bit of that motion?
Yes,
So
I'd
that I
like
can
to add
actually remember
that.
it.
I'd like to add that myself.
To respond to the questions asked by the architect and any questions that Tracy couldn't answer to come back to us at the next full council. And I would accept councillor Hubbard as a friendly amendment.
Well, I think, to be fair, I think councillor Hubbard's was the motion that got seconded.
To vote mine down because I.
No, yeah,
Oh, take it, yeah, but as long as you just make sure everything's.
I'll second Simon's.
You happy about it?
Sorry,
Fantastic,
I
right.
wondered if I'd been heard.
No, sorry, it all got a bit.
With your consent, Chairman, and if you're agreeable, Simon, can I suggest one other amendment I'd like to add that, I think I'd like to tag on to that motion, that this item comes as a standing item to full council for updates. So every full council will get a project update on East of Melksham, because I think that's the biggest project this council will be dealing with, and that will help everybody keep on the case and know where we are.
Yes. Happy about that?
Thank you.
Okay, right, so we have motion, propose and a seconder, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you very much. Item 15, Dispensary Garden. I know the people came late, but thank you very much, Andrew, for digging them out and getting them out to everyone.
Hugh found them in the end, actually.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Hugh.
Possibly from the hospital waiting room, I don't know.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comments on the plan we have in front of us and next steps? Adrian?
Thank you. I met last week, once physically with our head of horticulture, I'm going to call him that, and 2 or 3 times we had messages and conversations going back. So it was Rich that told me that these 3 plants actually existed and who they were from. So thanks to Andrew and Hugh and everybody for tracking them down. The urgency on this is to do with the nesting season. It's the trees need to be cleared between the back of the bund and the railings. If we don't do it now, the nesting season has just stopped. I think it's August the 28th and something like that. And we've got until mid-February. So if we don't get this sorted, either at this meeting or the next meeting, you know what's going to happen, don't you? We're going to be back in the nesting season. If we can't get this work started, it's going to be another year before we can actually do anything with the sensory garden, which is why I've been chasing for it to be on this agenda. And I do appreciate Andrew must have been fed up with me sending emails to him, but there was an awful lot of logic in what I was doing. Oh, it's such a short time when you can actually fell trees effectively. So I am going to ask tonight, I mean, you've got 3 quotes in front of you. Not sure they're like for like, but I was going to actually ask that we give delegated powers to our local clerk in consultation with our horticultural expert to make a decision on which of those quotes is the best one to go for. There's one which, as far as I can see, is not even in the game, because it's not actually doing the bit which is the important bit, which is to remove the trees. But Rich has assured me that once those trees are down, you can start looking at the bund. He has said that the bund doesn't all need to come, because there's a bit at the bottom which is in the sunshine that needs to be removed so we can have seating there. He's got an awful lot of ideas, an awful lot of plans. He wants to build 5 pathways which are going to have the 5 different senses in it with the bushes. He has got the plans, but we need to get this bit done before we can move anything on. I've tried to track the minutes back. If you look at the minutes back in a year ago, it was going to be done in-house, and then for some unknown reason, there were quotes going out for another plan. I got very confused about that. And then this item actually came to it on the agenda in February, and then there wasn't a meeting in April. So you can see how it's got delayed. So if we can just actually ask for delegated powers to go to Tracy and Rich, just to get this first bit sorted, so we can then build up and draw some plans from our horticultural expert as to which way he wants to do it in-house. He feels that he can do it in-house, which is going to be an awful lot better. We do need more plans, but we can't wait for plans, otherwise it's going to be 18 months again.
Yes, John?
I basically fully support the suggestion. I think this is another instance where, to be honest with you, what as a council we should be doing is saying, here's a project we want to get done, and allowing our professionals to get on and do it. We've got 3 quotes in front of us today. They could not be more wildly different in their format. One of them who's giving us a day rate for 2 men and a digger, but no indication as to how many days would be required. And then 2 quotes with a fixed price, but with an extraordinary amount of difference in cost, which can only mean that they're talking about two different jobs. And looking at the very expensive one, I know, you know, they're talking about putting in fences and all the rest of it on there. So I think we do need to put a figure on what we delegate to the clerk. But I'm quite happy that and I would suggest there's going to be this, then there's going to be other works that are required, groundworks that could be required beyond the first stuff coming in here on all of this. So if you'll accept a friendly amendment, Adrian, I suggest that we delegate to the clerk a maximum of £25,000 to spend on any groundworks required to complete the sensory garden project to external contractors, and then the rest of the work, which is happy we can do in-house. And we leave it to our professionals to work out who the right people to do the different bits of the work are.
I'm happy with that. Simon, what we?
Funny if I was.
Thank you for
Related to what I was saying, that was all.
Sappy and then
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's ridiculous us to be sat here trying to make a decision on something that none of us are experts in. Leave it, to give delegated authority to people that actually know what they're talking about and what they're doing.
I'll be very quick, 'cause it's spooky. John and I didn't go to the pub. So I was going to say pretty much as I was saying, which is rather than saying, should we choose a quote, give the delegate authority to choose a quote, just say, I was going to say, just can we delegate 25,000 to get the trees down? Whatever's done in-house is in-house, so it's contracts out, it's contracts out. It was just have to come back.
Thank you very much. Are there any more comments?
Just to be clear,
Yes.
the amendment I was suggesting, 25,000 for any groundworks required, so do the initial work, but if there's later stuff as well, no need to come back to us unless it's going to be costing more than 25 in total. Just get on and get the job done. That's the next time we talk about it, be having a conversation about what good job has been done.
It's just the nesting season that was sort of like stressing me out a bit.
Yeah, right, fantastic. So we have a proposer and seconder. Can we go to the vote? All in favour? Another unanimous. Thank you very much.
We're showing us something, remember?
That's my plan.
Work out next month.
Yeah, item 16, eco-loos. This did come from the academic initiative meeting held last week to discuss to essentially plumb the current eco-loos and seem not to be fit for the purpose. But I'll open it to Graham and then John.
I've just got one minor point on here from what we resolved. I think we were also looking at having running water in there as well, which actually is not included in the resolution as it came forward. So plumbing in the toilets doesn't actually mean a sink. So can we make sure there's a sink or something?
It is actually in the resolution, but I wrote this one before I finalised the minutes and I forgot to change it.
All on the same side.
It is in the resolved minutes of the
I just hate to see 50k of work done and we didn't get the sink.
no, I've actually put in there water. I've actually, and as Councillor Hubbard mentioned, I've actually put water, preferably hot, but cold if necessary, or words to that effect.
That was what we, yes. Thank you.
John,
Move.
are there any comments for anyone who wasn't at the last assets? They have an opportunity to speak if they have any comments.
Has there been any progress yet in space?
With what?
No, that's what we're voting on now.
I know, but we talked about it last week. I just wondered if Tracy had actually done anything yet.
The eco-loos are actually working, so there's no need to have this.
I was just going to say, there's actually a final. Yeah.
I have actually, I've been in contact with the planning, and they're gonna come out and have a look to see if we do need any planning application, building regs on that. Yeah, and we're already starting to go out to get some quotes of work, so I have commenced it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not spending any money.
Graham, you want to come back?
I was just going to come out to the same thing Adrian was coming in. There's no need to put the signage up on the door because they are working again. Apparently there was a couple of fuses that had blown or something like that. It's probably a good idea to have signage up there and available to put on the door should they go out of use again.
Took them up there today. They're in the little control room.
Aren't we all good and controlled and working well?
Thank you very much. In that case then, I'll go to the vote. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Favourite meeting so far? Item 17, delegated powers, to discuss delegated powers of the town clerk. I go to John, I'm going to go to John anyway, because I believe he has some thoughts on this.
Yeah, this is here my request. I just increasingly feel that we've developed a culture of minutiae detail being brought to council for decision that frankly we don't need to be discussing. And I think that we need to reiterate what the boundaries are and make clear what the boundaries are for what the clerk and her team, and of course it's always the clerk because everything goes to the clerk and the clerk is then empowered to delegate to anybody what she chooses. The powers that they're able to do without having to come back to council for everything, because I think that there are a number of items which I absolutely understand why they've come to council, because culturally we've got in a position where almost everything was being checked and questioned and so on and so forth. But I think we're in a much more stable position now, and I think that to facilitate faster working and to make life easier for the team in the town hall, we need to make it clear about what council needs to decide and what officers need to decide. And in very simple terms, reset policy, they perform operational work. So when it comes to, for instance, the item we had earlier about bringing in, paying for somebody to come in and put together the bid for doing the application for the grant funding. In my opinion, and certainly at Wiltshire Council, we would never be having a discussion about whether we bring in somebody for that or not. That's within the chief executive's purview. We give the town park an annual budget for staffing. It should be that the clerk can use that funding as they see fit for the year to staff the council. They'll have an agreed structure which council works with, but when we've got holes in that structure, we should allow the clerk, as they see fit, to be able to fill those holes when they need to fill them, not come to full council every time to ask permission to, because all it's doing is delaying us being able to do something. When we delegate to the clerk responsibility for choosing what's the best way to do something, and we've just seen this again with the sensory thing this evening, in my opinion, that is then an operational issue. It's not an ongoing contract. It is a piece of work. We've got a budget for that piece of work to be done. We shouldn't be turning these things around and saying we've set a budget for the park or the Century Garden or this play or whatever of X. Go away and do it within that budget. And if you can't do it in that budget, then bring it back and tell us about it. But if you can do it in that budget, get on and do it. We don't need to decide everything about that. I'm minded of, I'm not sure, Adrian, whether you still, no, I think you were with us on this council budget discussion. This isn't a criticism of this council because it was under the old council. But I remember once on an annual budget, when we were talking about budget setting, there being a 40-minute discussion about whether we should pay an Amazon Prime subscription or not, because of, we could get free delivery over whether we should, those are minutiae things. The item that came to us recently about whether we have a second phone line or not to back up the systems here, that shouldn't be an item for council. Officers should be looking, do we need this? Is it within the operational budget for running the town hall? Yes, get on with it. If the operational budget for the town hall isn't enough, then bring a case to council for why we need more money for the town hall. But we shouldn't be having to bring to council those sort of minutiae details. Those are operational issues for our operational staff to resolve. So I just think that we really need to create a barrier between policy setting, making decisions about what we want to do, which is our job as councillors, and then allowing our professional team to be able to go away and operationally do it within the constraints that as councillors we have set out, and let them do it without having to try and unpick everything as it goes. Because we don't have time for that, they don't have time for that, and it's one of the reasons we never get anything done, in my opinion.
Thank you. Charlie?
I agree with John, and I think possibly what's happened is that there is a little bit of also of a lack of confidence in what they can do, what they're allowed to do, because I think there have been things that have gone wrong in the past, and I think they've been kind of reined in and they're left alone and not always had the guidance that they perhaps needed to know when they can spend and when they can't. And I think that this will hopefully very much help them in knowing, yeah, this is fine to do. You can go off and do it. You know, we trust you. Here's your independence as such. And actually, no, this bit is bigger. Come back to us. Let's discuss it. So I think this is a really good proposal.
Thank you. John, different from me, can you just, what would the actual proposal be, like the wording to the proposal, would it actually be? We have some work.
Okay, I think that council reiterates the relevant items in our standing orders and financial regulations that give power to the town clerk and their staff to undertake the operational management of day-to-day business at the council within the spending limits of the budget, the annual budget. Council is reminded that the clerk is entitled to spend up to, and I think it's £20,000 in our financial regs. Am I right? I'm sure I'm right, it's 20,000. We put it up because it was a ridiculous amount before. Up to £20,000 within financial regulations without reference to council, where there is either an emergency or it is felt appropriate. We encourage, council encourages the clerk and her team to use their delegated powers to expedite the delivery of services from the council and request that wherever possible, items are brought to inform council of what has happened rather than ask permission for what could happen. Yeah.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Unless is Ed, sorry.
Well, all I wanted to do was, because what I don't want to be doing is stitching our officers up. I'm trying to empower, not to. So I just want to check through you, Chair, if I might, with the clerk. Is she comfortable with what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. We're taking the amended financial regulations to the next finance committee, so we have to make sure that we don't sort of contravene between the two. We have to make sure that that equals what we're saying.
And that's why I very carefully said that subject, I'm reminded of what the relevant areas within standing orders and financial regs.
Financial regs do give a certain level, then I've got to bring 3 quotes to whatever committee or council. So it's probably that level that we've got to adjust as well.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, and that will come back to finance committee.
Okay. Okay, we have a proposer and a seconder. Any more comments on that? All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Just a thought, Chair, if I could just sneak, not for decision now, because we'd need to take it away and think about it. But one of the challenges that there can be, and I think it's right if we go out for 3 quotes, that it may be that it's a member decision as to whether that's spent or not. I wonder if it's worth us talking about creating something like a contract subcommittee that could be called at short notice at any time, that maybe even every councillor is a member of, so that it's easy enough to pull together a team of people to make a decision. So when there is something coming and you need, because the problem is you've got something that's gone to contract, it's 6 weeks until the next meeting.
And then you miss the deadline to get it on the agenda.
Yeah, then you've got 6 weeks until that's, if you've got a contract subcommittee that you could turn around and say, I'm calling a special next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Whoever can get there. And this is what's going to be on the agenda. That at least it cuts it down to a week. So that wasn't agendaed for tonight. I don't think we could do it tonight. But perhaps Tracy, you can think about the practicalities of that. And if so, we can put a motion to next.
Thank you very much, John. I think that's a fair point. Thank you. Item 18, committee minutes. So to receive the minutes of the Community Development Committee, it's just to receive, isn't it? They are received. Any comments? Don't need to vote. Okay, and the Economic Development and Plan Committee, do we have any comments on those? Fantastic. In that case, then I'll bring the meeting to a close. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you, all members of the public.
That's Simon, is when they're meant to finish.
I just enjoyed